Thank you so much for joining us today for the Tel Aviv University Student Speak series. We have with us Adrienne Gibson. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So Adrienne, tell me a little bit about your background and how you ended up at Tel Aviv University.
Okay, I actually thought of coming to Tel Aviv back in 2019 when I was deployed with the United States Army Reserves to Djibouti, Africa. And while I was there, I was acting as a civil affairs officer. And there was a major disaster there. There was actually a huge flood that the United States was helping respond to. And so while I was there, I was helping respond to the flood. I got really interested in emergency management and how I could help other countries with building emergency management plans. And so then I started doing research about like where I could study emergency management because I didn't have much experience other than the military in dealing with emergencies. And for some reason I found, like Tel Aviv University wasn't lost, but it was found to me. Like I got really introduced to it through my research and found out they had emergency management program in person. And so I applied and I got in. So I was really excited to go to a school and learn emergency management. So I ended up at TAU in the Masters of Public Health with a concentration in emergency and disaster management. So that's the long story on how I even wanted to study at TAU. And I just felt this being in Israel and reading about the different professors and about their experience that this was the program for me. And especially being in an international environment where I could meet students that I would never get the chance to do so, which has really motivated me. And I've always wanted to study abroad. And so it just seemed like everything was aligning at the right time. And so that's why I applied. And that's how I got to TAU.
So fascinating. So walk me through a little bit of your coursework. When you talk about emergency management, what were some of the things that you were learning in the classroom and in the field?
So our program, I would say, is multifaceted, and it prepares you for like two different spectrums of emergency management. It prepares you for like the humanitarian approach, where you'll be working with a lot of NGOs and IGOs like WHO or other organizations such as that. And then it prepares you for actually like if you're working, in my case, on a local or national or federal level in the United States, on how to actually respond to an emergency. So the professors there, of course, since they're in Israel, they all have military background, but they actually have experience with working in these disasters. So a lot of them had experience in Haiti with a really big earthquake. And this program just prepares you for these two different spectrums that you normally wouldn't think are one, but this program will prepare you for ability to work in these two different fields.
Incredible. And you talked about the diversity of the people you were learning with. So when you say it's an international environment, where are people coming from? I mean, who did you meet?
Oh, it's so amazing. So it's kind of funny because like when you go to international programs, you're like, I want to meet other people. Like I don't want to be around, in my case, like I don't want to meet a bunch of people from California. I mean, the whole purpose of going to a program is to meet people from different countries. And our program alone, we had people from Switzerland, Sudan, Italy, a lot from Canada, and a few more. Oh, Germany. And it was such a diverse population within our program. And there's a lot of people that did come from the US, but they've been in Israel so long. I mean, I can almost say they're Israeli now, right? I'm like, they no longer have the same mindset they did as when they were living in the US. So they're definitely bringing that perspective of, coming from the US when they're teens and being in Israel for like 5 or 10 years and how that's changed them. And they were able to bring a different mix to the class. And it's just really interesting to hear about other people in their, like even their schools, like every country has their different school system and education, like what they concentrate on. So it was just really interesting just hearing about where they're from, what brought them to Israel, and like what their future goal is after completing the program.
Incredible. Now, how was the language barrier? You were able to all communicate?
Yes, so that's the beauty of it. And when I was telling people, like, I'm going to Israel, they're like, you don't speak Hebrew. I'm like, I know, but it's okay because it's taught in English. And so it's fine. And all our coursework was done in English, so there was no language barrier between us and the professors or the other students because I believe everyone had to pass like a certain level of English, but never at any time in my coursework or even with guest speakers did I feel like I wasn't able to communicate with them or they weren't able to communicate with me. And most people in Israel have a working knowledge of English, I feel. Like, even when I'm not on school grounds, I didn't have trouble getting around and navigating or asking someone for help. Between my little Hebrew and their little English, like, it was fine. No
Nice.
problems.
Are you going to keep in touch with any of the people that you met on the program?
Absolutely. I feel like I definitely made some lifelong friends. And some people say that, but I truly feel that like deep down, like these are people that we formed a group. I mean, there's less than 25 of us. And so from the moment we met each other, it's a very tight-knit group. And of course you branch off into smaller groups, but I think for the most part, I feel very comfortable with everyone in my program, and I've already made plans to meet up with them after the program's done and in our different countries. It's like I wanted to make friends in different countries so I can go visit them. I love traveling, so I told my friend from Switzerland, like, I'm coming. Like, you don't have to come to the U.S. I'll just come to Switzerland. Like, it's totally fine. No worries.
Nice. And how is this going to influence what you're doing today? I mean, where are you now, and what are you doing with what you've learned at TAU?
Well, the reason why I actually flew back to the US a little early is because I actually got a job already working in the field for the state of California. And so I'll be putting to practice what I learned in school in my job, helping respond to emergencies in the recovery department. So they've already set me up for success, and I feel like I'm on a perfect path already.
Wow. So now tell me some of the details of what that means. When you say you're going to be working on recovery in California, what are some of the parts of that job?
So right now, I don't know how familiar you are with California, but there's a lot of disasters in California between earthquakes and the wildfires are a really big part. So let's say, uh, you're you work for a state school in California and there's an earthquake or there's a wildfire and it damages some piece of your property, you're able to reach out to the federal government to help get compensation for the repairs needed for the disaster. So my department works, it's considered public assistance. Public assistance really for the state entity that was damaged, and we really work with them from beginning to end. So going out there and assessing the damage, working with them and telling them what they qualify, helping them get the funds they need in order to repair. So there's a lot of different phases of emergency management, and I'm starting at the pretty much the recovery portion. But I feel like starting in the recovery will help me for like the mitigation and preparedness in the future. So I'm going to make the full circle one day. So I'm just very excited to just get in the field and work on the end product, like helping them recover. So one day I can be on the front end saying, hey, this is how you help prepare your organization for a disaster. Like, this is the building codes and like things you need to do in order to help mitigate these future events. So sorry,
Great.
it's a
Now
long-winded, but
it's actually awesome. I think our readers are going to love to learn about this. I'm certainly loving it. So last question, tell me what you would tell another student interested in coming to learn in Tel Aviv.
Well, first I want to tell them to not be afraid and be bold. I know, like, I got a lot of discouraging words at first when I told people I was going to go to Israel. They're like, oh, the language barrier, you're so far from home. And what if you don't like it? I'm like, well, you won't know unless you go, right? But just open your mind, open your heart, and it's a wonderful experience. Besides studying with a great faculty, meeting students from all over the world, Israel itself is just gorgeous. Like the beaches, everything about Israel is just wonderful. And the people were very welcoming and loving. Like I didn't have a problem with, I mean, there's a few people, but generally speaking, the people are wonderful too. And just to go and experience living abroad and meeting people, I just want to, I tell everybody like, I want to go back to Israel every year and just visit all the little nooks and crannies I didn't get to when I was there, and also just to stay in touch with my friends that I made there that are going to live there. But most of all, I'm just telling people, don't be afraid, just go, and you're going to love it. You're going to love it.
Wow. Well, I love hearing that. So, Adrienne, thank you so much and best of luck to you in your new job and everything that you do in the future. It sounds like you're off to a great start.
Thank you.
Thank you.